You are now tuned into the sounds of BigNate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
Time's been moving slowly, so we already in too deep.
I don't know if I'm okay. I don't see the light of day. Looking up to higher ground, thinking that'll be your sweet escape. These days gotta schedule the romance. They say that love is a slow dance. A short bike ride to the crib using no hands. Oh shit, it feel like I'm floating, but I'm falling with both eyes closed when I let the world spin. Testing the water, she got my nerves tense. Back when I ain't even have a purpose, I was so eager to learn some things. Anxiety bring out the worst in me. Society paint me as enemy. My niggas making it by that remedy. I'm more occasional, don't do it regularly. Backs under my eyes, weighing down heavily. Mama been worried, the devil allegedly deep in the plan. Subconsciously wanted it since I was 10. I thought I was sharp on my scroll and my pen think it did. So mama found she to them legs. She told me that's not who I am. But nowadays I put on for the fam, see it when I can. I'm surrounded by my feelings, I'm stuck on a Ferris wheel. I bet I perish with 140 acres. She want the horse and the carriage, a porcelain portion of garbage. I talk to the mirror, I know that life's not the fairest. I lost my can, I can't pay off the bills with the blessing. I'm sure I relate to the Reddit page. It's feeling like money is everything. Money is everything.
You are now tuned in to BigNate Sports Talk, the show that's on all the time, anytime. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for all content. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nathan Snell. Bring your sports game with BigNate Sports Talk.
Well, first of all, listen, it's interesting about all these young guys today. They never call on us and say, hey, thanks for the kind word and telling me how great a player I am. But when they play like crap and we call them out, we don't know what we're talking about. Listen, I'm easy to find.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your host, Nathan Snell of BigNate Sports Talk Podcast. Welcome. This is episode 24 of the podcast. Actually, we misspoke in the last episode. That's episode 23, the Washington Commanders versus Indianapolis Colts recap. This is episode 24. In this video, we are recapping the past Thursday Night Football win with the Baltimore Ravens versus those Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But before we get into that, there's a few things I'd like to say up front. This evening, I'm going to do a video on the NFL trade deadline recap. I'm going to hold off on talking about the trade for the Ravens made a trade for Roquan Smith. I'm going to hold off on that until the preview when we play this weekend against New Orleans. But I'm going to talk about that. And also, too, I know the Commanders also traded William Jackson III. So I'm also going to talk about that, but I will hold off on those for at the moment. Now, the Baltimore Ravens defeated Mr. Dimple Chin himself, Tom Brady, and the Buccaneers 22-27.
Lose it, you never win.
Oh, boy!
That stuff is...
Yes!
Okay. Where should I start? I'm going to start with this offense. We overcame a very slow start, but we prevailed. I would say it was a tale of two halves. Because the first half, this is something that's bothering some, when watching the Ravens, and I've said this last season, I will continue to say it again. They have to be disciplined when it comes to clock management and making adjustments. We have said this. We shouldn't have the same issues over and over and over again, but it just repeats itself because we have to find our way back to win the game. Because the first 3 quarters, I don't know what the hell we were doing at all. It was ugly, other than the field goal, which was basically because Tampa Bay muffed the punt. They punted the ball 4 times, turned the ball over on downs. Our field it was 61-yard field goal was blocked. Lamar Jackson was sacked 3 times, and we only had 3 runs for negative yardage. And I think it was on back-to-back penalties with 30 combined yards. On that could have had us score in second quarter. But lack of discipline and clock management and just no. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like leadership, calm the hell down. Like doing too much. That's what I saw in that first half. We going in the second half, it just looked like a different team. I mean, this run pass balance offense, the first 2 quarters, there were only 30 pass 30 pass attempts. And then if I took advantage of that in the red zone, there was a back-to-back touchdown drives was 80 yards and 77 yards. And which we saw the ball ran 12 times compared to the 6. Baltimore's always going to run. It's always going to be a mixture of run and pass. But Baltimore's always been this run. It's always been a run first team because the run game will open up the pass, which logically you would think the pass would open up the run game. But for the system, Greg Roman's system is run the ball and mix in some passing. Once the run game gets going, then you focus on the pass. That's always been his style of coaching. I think that's weird. That's just how he showed me he did it was in Buffalo and in San Francisco. Unfortunately, Mark Andrews and Rashard Bateman had went down with injuries. And that's where I'm looking at others. Like this is like, others matter. You know, Devin Duvernay, Demarcus Robinson, James Prochet, Isaiah Likely, like these guys are going to are going to be asked to step up. Like when I saw Mark Andrews go down and the shoulder injury, he'll be ready for Monday Night Football against the New Orleans Saints. I'm leaving it at that. Rashard Bateman, I'm thinking maybe he was not ready to come back this week off his foot injury, in my opinion. But like when you say to yourself, like, oh shit, like, okay, here we go. You don't have Bates, you don't have Bateman, you don't have Andrews. Like, okay, it's gonna be a long game. But we persevered. You know, we leaned on guys like Devin Duvernay, Isaiah Likely, Demarcus Robinson, others that stepped up and saying and took and filled the role that filled the void that Mark Andrews and Rashard Bateman left. Example, Isaiah Likely, who I think had a nice game. He had was it 3 of his 6 receptions came in the second half. Then the toe tapping touchdown. Like that gave Baltimore the first lead. Demarcus Robinson caught 6 passes, with one in the first half for 64 yards. There was the key first down conversion in the third quarter. There was the 15-yard gain that he had on the quick screen pass, and we scored 2 plays later. Then there was the Devin Duvernay. He had 5 second half catches for over 60 yards in the touchdown. But not just also that Kenyon Drake stepped up, James Prochet. Lamar Jackson he had spread the ball around for everybody, where even with Mark Andrews or Rashard Bateman out there, because we all know Rashard Bateman is his number one wide receiver. We know his security blanket is Mark Andrews, but everybody was involved. He got everybody offensively to make the necessary plays. And you credit that to Lamar Jackson, but you also credit that to some of that to Greg Roman. Like, there wasn't a lot of deep passes. The quick throwing passing game, which unlocked momentum, was positive. Now, they're able to gain 200 yards as well on the run, on the ground as a running the ball. Gus Edwards had about 65 yards. Kenyon Drake rushed the ball for about 62. Devin Duvernay, I believe Lamar Jackson had 43. I think it was Duvernay who had 33, and then Justice Hill had 28. Like, those are the things offensively you've got to keep consistent. Now, defense. defense is interesting. Didn't have some guys out there. Now, you look at the defensive side of the ball. We have this. I don't know what this is for now. This was a second straight game. We've allowed opponents to score. It was the 4-net touchdown. So I'm like, okay, and we're off. Because he hadn't done that for the first 6 weeks. It took Tampa Bay, I believe it was 8 plays, about 75 yards. You had the 44-yard catch by Chris Godwin. And then the Marcus Peters holding penalty. Then at that point, 7-3. Then they took another 10-play drive. They took a Ryan Suckup field goal, which was up. They were up by 7. McDonald, as a defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, this is going to, like, the defense they're going to get demolished today. But they responded and made the necessary adjustments. They forced back-to-back 3-and-outs. And particularly on that scoring, that just before going into halftime, Justin Houston, who I believe, if I'm saying this stat correctly, I think he now ties with Chandler Jones as a third most active player with 108 career sacks. Behind them is Von Miller and Cameron Jordan. So he's now third. And then behind him, I think he's also he's number 3 in sacks with 27. J.J. Watt has 33 and Von Miller has 28. Good statistic. Hall of Famer in my opinion. But, I think what's a positive on the defensive side of the ball was we kept Tampa Bay to 10 points to 2 quarters. Like that's positive results. Then you see, unfortunately, the offense, as for Baltimore offensively, once we're getting ourselves together, then that's when things start over for the defense. You forced 2 points. Then you held Tampa Bay to the field goal, and then painfully, they scored at the last minute with the Chris Goodwin touchdown. But they made it hard for Tampa throughout the game. I thought, for the most part, coming into this game, Tampa Bay was already dealing with enough. I'm not one of those to say that it's time for Tom Brady to be benched. I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are just dealing with a lot right now. Okay. They're just on both sides of the ball. Watching them lose to Carolina and then watch them lose to Baltimore. There's a lot of issues. They're dealing with injuries. The offensive line's plagued with injuries, number one. Chris Godwin, we all know, is coming off his injury, so we know he's not really truly 100%. Your really true best weapon is Mike Evans, and most teams will take him away. I mean, yes, Brady finished the game with 325 yards and a touchdown, but he was sacked 3 times. And also, too, they are not running the ball. They are the worst running attack. They only compiled, I think it was 44 yards of 15 carries. That's not going to win you football games. My clip.
I mean, this is some bad stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how much more this I can take. I just don't know. This is ridiculous. Oh, Lord.
When I look at this team, for Tampa, they're just dealing with a lot and consistency. Byron Leftwich, I think, is a good offensive coordinator, but his play calling is questionable at times. Their defense, they lost Shaquille Barrett for the year. That hurts because he was their sack. He led the league. He led the team in sacks. I mean, there's just a lot of things going on with Tampa, and I just don't think everything falls on Tom Brady. yes, I understand he retired and then came back all of a sudden, and that kind of put a damper on things because I think they were preparing for with Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask. I was going to say Trask, excuse me. So right now, when you look at Tampa, there's a lot of ineffective and inconsistency, and particularly when you watch them in the run game. I saw as the game was progressing, particularly when we were running the ball, I saw a lot of hands on hips. So I think right now, for you have to be consistent, and there's some things that Tampa has to do. They have, as individuals, they kind of have to look themselves in the mirror a little bit more, because I think going forward, I don't think they're going to. I think they're not. I think they'll make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to win the AFC, the NFC South. I don't think so. Like, your offense didn't help you much, particularly in the first, in the much until the second half. And defensively, we ran the ball around circles around them. So there's just a lot of things, as I stated, that Tampa just has to clean up. Once they clean those things up, I think they'll be okay. Is this the end of Brady? Well, I mean, we've already been kind of wanting Tom Brady out, but I think it's more of a pride thing. This team is coming off a Super Bowl, and you kind of start to see this team starting to age, and you kind of start to see it needs a new sense of direction. It needs I wouldn't say a rebuild, but a reset. Because remember, like I stated, he retired, and then I believe they were planning to prepare Blaine Gabbert or Kyle Trask for this offense. Then Tom Brady comes in all of a sudden. That kind of puts a damper on things. Like, we all know, I feel like this is going to be this is only his last year, but I don't think benching him or fixes the problems that Tampa Bay is already dealing with. When you have the four, I think it is, out of your starting five offense linemen, Ryan Jensen's was not out there. Ali, I can't pronounce his last name, retired during the offseason. Donovan Smith gets hurt. So you had a plagued injury offensive line. And you also, too, you didn't have a lot of your defensive guys out there Thursday night due to injury. Antoine Renfield Jr., that makes a difference. Barrett tears his tendon. You didn't have a lot of personnel, your starters. There were a lot of key personnel out there that was not out there Thursday due to injury. So to answer your question, shout out to comedian Hendricks, we know after this year he'll most likely say, I'm done. But right now, no. I mean, we're going into week 8, and we already we've seen the struggles of Tampa. So I give it some more time. I think Tampa will get it together. However, it was a good win for us. Really, I do want to send my thoughts and prayers to Shaquille Barrett. I do hope that he makes a speedy recovery and gets back on the field soon, because that definitely sucks. He's one of my favorite linebackers, and it just sucked to see him go down with that injury because he's been having a good year so far. So thoughts and prayers out with him. But for the Ravens, it's a big win. Lamar Jackson, I believe he is now the second quarterback in Ravens franchise history to record 1,000 completions, joining Mr. Who? Joe Flacco himself, who had 3,499 exact on-time completions in Joe Flacco. Shout out to Joe Flacco. We are now 16-4 with Greg Roman as offensive coordinator when we have run the ball 200 times, over 200 yards in rushing. Tennessee, I think, has second with 11. Fun fact, so bring your hand on that stat. And I think we have given Tampa Bay their first 3-game losing streak since 2002. That's when they had Keyshawn Johnson and those boys out there. I never liked Brady, so I've been waiting for this. And hey, maybe Max, and hey, shout out to Max Kellerman. And maybe this could be a falling off the cliff. Who knows? But yeah, man, I believe they'll get it together. So, I still think they'll make the playoffs. But right now, this is more of as individuals, as players, what do I have to do to get to be better? That's just my philosophy. But nonetheless, can't get the word out. Let's move into our final segment of the podcast.
Incoming message.
Thoughts are running through my mind, so I took some time to find a minute or two to organize them.
Final message. As I said in the previous video, hey, we just got to be better. We have to look ourselves in the mirror as individuals, saying, how can I be a better person for today, tomorrow, and going so forth? Because one thing I've noticed about our society is that there's not a lot of love, and there's not a lot of compassion, and there's not a lot of accountability. I think as when we take those things in consideration to be better as people, you'll see good results, because that is through consistency and hard work. Is just one of a core value that I have. And sometimes also too, you may need to lean on faith. I know faith may not be the biggest priority in someone's life, but I've learned through faith that there's nothing wrong with leaning on God and asking for guidance and asking to be put in the right direction. So just reflect. Thank you so much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. We are on the road to 200 subs. I feel like we're going to get there soon. I'm hoping to have that accomplished by the end of the week. That is my goal, to get to 200 subs, because we've been at that mark for quite some time now. So thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate the support that I have been getting on the podcast. I will have all the episodes for season 11 uploaded as soon as I can. Comedian Al Hendricks, I appreciate you, my guy, for joining me on the podcast. Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate you. Shout out to Comedian Al Hendricks. Check out his channel. Great content. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to enjoy. Actually need to get ready to go to work soon. So enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Hope it's going well for you. Hope the work week is going well for you. Again, please like, comment, subscribe. Check out all the other content on BigNate Sports Talk Podcast. It's your host, Ethan Snell. Thank you for so much for tuning in. I will catch you guys on the flip side. I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate you. I really do. Until then, I'm out. Peace. Stay up.
But I get sick of these guys complaining. These young guys, they never call us and say, when a coach is wrong, I'm going to call him out. But when players are wrong, I'm going to call them out. Thanks for the kind words. But listen, I'm going to criticize guys that they deserve it. And listen, they can kiss my ass if they don't like it.
Thank you for tuning in to BigNate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode and you want to see more content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Bring your sports game on BigNate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
Thank you. And you help me retain my sanity. Thank you. I want to thank you.